thanks to Rude Corporate and Mining News for inviting me along this afternoon to share the ALTO story. I have been told that I'm standing between you guys and a few beers, so I will keep it short, but I assure you it's worth it. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about ALTO Metals and some of the exciting drilling results we've had recently, and I guess the potential we see for the whole historic goldfield and where we can see it growing. It's certainly been a busy year for us this year. We started drilling in February, facing the same issues that all of the fellow explorers have had with sort of delays in getting rigs and assays, but those assays are starting to come through thick and fast now, and there's a lot of results that have come through. There's a lot more to come, and we can see our resources growing and also leading to more discoveries. So yeah, it's exciting times for us. Very quickly, the disclaimer that I'll leave you to read in your own time. So the Sandstone Gold Project, so we're based in the East Murchison of Western Australia, so we're obviously WA-based gold explorer. East Murchison, it's a world-class gold district. We're surrounded by a number of multi-million ounce deposits and operating mines. Sandstone itself covers over 900 square kilometres of the Sandstone Greenstone Belt. So it's a major dominant ground position over sandstone, which has already produced over 1 million ounces. It's had mining activity since the early 1900s. I think it first stopped mining when the First World War broke out. So it's had a number of sort of companies go through the area. A lot of it's been focusing on a couple of high-grade reefs. And then more recently, Troy Resources in the early 2000s went back in and they were mining a number of oxide mills. So, and for us, that's the key part of this story is the belt itself has had a lot of exploration, but I guess we're looking a little bit deeper and we're finding a lot more gold. So there's a slide I'll go through shortly which shows that, I guess, that full drilling depth compared to the drilling that's deeper than 100 metres. So our resource sits at 300,000 ounces at the moment. That's spread across 4 deposits. We see that resource growing considerably. We have undertaken some initial met work. We're getting some great recoveries, so a very, very simple CIL process to recover that gold. As I mentioned, it's only been drilled down to about 100 metres, and we can see that growing significantly. The drilling that we've undertaken, we've actually had to pause our drilling. When I called the driller, excuse me, when I called the driller up to say we needed to let the rigs go, he was a bit surprised. But we've currently got sort of 10 assays for diamond holes and over 100 RC holes pending. Our drilling rigs were doing about 5,000 metres a month, and we had at 1.3 RC rigs on site on one diamond. So we've been really hitting this hard. We've drilled about 50,000 metres this year alone, and that will all lead into a resource later on, either this year or to touch wood if the assays come through, or the first quarter of next year. Well funded, so we haven't put out our quarterly yet, but I think you'll see us end the quarter with about $3 million, which is certainly good given the rigs have paused. And we've also had, for those of you probably following the story for a while, we have had some corporate interest. It has been a bit of a distraction from sort of dealing with the exploration, but for us, I guess it's sitting as an endorsement of the property and sort of just putting it on a lot more people's radar. So I just wanted to lead with this slide. As Don mentioned before, we have had I think some fantastic drilling results coming out. I think it's really starting to demonstrate that there's a lot more at Sandstone than was previously thought. It's certainly got a lot more to give, and we're just hitting it hard and finding a lot more gold. The image on the bottom there is, so we're focusing down in the southeast corner, and I'll show you that slide shortly, but the two pits there, it's the Lord Nelson pit, which was mined down to 90 metres. It produced over 200,000 ounces of gold at 4.6 grams. It's contained within a 3 kilometre long Granodiorite intrusion, and that runs all the way down to, I don't know if you can see that on the slide, but in the top right-hand corner there's the Lord Henry pit, slightly more modest at sort of 40,000 ounces, but that was 3.4 grams per tonne. So we're basically, and the mining at Lord Nelson and Lord Henry stopped when they hit the oxide, and that's the key thing. So a lot of that, the exploration at the Sandstone Greenstone Belt, particularly when Troy had it, was all driven by an oxide mill, and you've got to remember it's a different gold price in that time. And so what we're doing at the moment is basically drilling below that pit, and we're just chasing that mineralisation down. So there's existing resources there, and we've chased those resources down plunge, down dip, and they're still open, and we're adding a lot more ounces. We've also then started to follow the corridor further down, and we're stepping out. We've tested up to 1 kilometre down that pit, and we're still finding more gold in new lodes. So we can still really see it growing. The Granodiorite itself, I think Red 5 presented earlier, it's very, very similar to their Tarmula Granodiorite. So if it's anywhere near the size of that, then we're pretty excited. And I think that's probably partly demonstrates the interest that we've had. But you look at some of those results, drilling down, just extending the dip on Lord Nelson, sort of over 40 metres at over 3 grams in a couple of different holes. They were about 30 metres apart, so it really highlights that continuity of strong grade. One of our best drill holes at Orion, which is located 200 metres south of the pit, 134 metres at 1.9 grams per tonne, including a very high grade zone in there. So that's really exciting, and I think sort of for us it's demonstrating that there is a number of repeat lodes down there, and they've coincided with some cross-cutting structures that we're seeing. So very quickly, just on the corporate side, so we've got about 450 million shares on issue. Our share price is sitting at about just over 9 cents. I think might have had a little bit of a kick today, but so market cap's about 42. As I said, we've got 3 million cash at the moment, so very reasonable EV an ounce. No debt. The key thing two key things about ALTO, as I mentioned before, we have had quite a bit of corporate interest, and that's really demonstrated by that share price chart down on the bottom there. You'll see sort of on the far left. So over the last 18 months, it's been really, really flat. That's because, I guess, just shortly after I got involved, my luck, so we had a first unsolicited takeover bid, which it wasn't really compelling for us, and we didn't have a lot of funding at the time. So that bid unfortunately dragged on for about 9 months, and we missed a lot of the uptick on the gold explorers. Got to February last year, we were out to raise some money, and we then got a subsequent takeover bid by a Chinese group. That was an 80% premium to where we were trading at the time, so at 6.6 cents. Again, we're trading at about 9.5, so I think sort of from the rejections that we've had, it certainly demonstrated that we knew what we had, and I think a lot of these groups knew that as well. We then subsequently had another bid from a producer down at Adamant that owned the Kirkalocka plant, and then most recently we've had Westgold, which are a mid-tier gold producer that have joined our register. They bought all that on market. So there's certainly a lot of interest out there. The register itself is very tightly held. The top 20 hold over sort of 60% of the stock. My fellow director, Terry Wheeler, owns 19% himself. He's actually supported the company, certainly when we were going through that tough period where we couldn't really raise the funding given the corporate interest, and I won't go into the mechanics of why we couldn't do that, but he supported the company through a non-recourse loan, which enabled us to get out there and hit the ground hard, and that's come through with those first few discovery holes. And you can see the share price has just ticked up since then. So as I said, this is a regional map of where we are. We are in a world-class location, surrounded by a number of operating mills. Sandstone sitting there right in the middle, 900 square kilometres over that entire Sandstone Belt. So certainly a number of options for us. Ramelius out to the west there, as I mentioned, sort of further below Ramelius their Chequers plant is Adamant, and then to the northwest there, is two of Westgold's plants also. So just zooming on the Sandstone Belt. So as I mentioned, it's 900 square k's. And our biggest challenge, and the company's biggest challenge, and for quite some time, has been there are a number of prospects, a number of sort of historical mills. Hacks and Arroy were mined, as I've mentioned before, in the early 1900s. They both produced over 200,000 ounces of gold at 25 grams and 15 grams per tonne separately, so very, very high grade. More recently, sort of in the 2000s, Bull China, which at the time was one of the most profitable gold mines in Australia. It's mined by Troy. Again, just mined the oxide out, and then certainly down, and then over on the southeast corner, you have Lord Nelson and Lord Henry. So we're focusing down on that sort of southeast corner. This is probably their key slide, and I mentioned before about the excitement we have in the area. So the slide on the left shows all the drilling that's ever been done over the entire Sandstone Greenstone Belt, and the same slide on the right is all the drilling that's deeper than 100 metres. So it's pretty amazing that you can see there it really just hasn't been tested, and that's what we're doing, is going in there and drilling a lot deeper. So the Lord's Corridor itself, as I mentioned before, it's a 3 kilometre long granodiorite. All of these results are over sort of 30 gram per tonne metres, and you can see at Lord Nelson there's a footwall and hanging wall lode. It's plunging to the south. We've stepped out, and where you see those jogs coming in, we've basically correlated to some further lodes that we're finding, and they're coinciding with those cross-cutting structures. So it's really exciting for us. We've been able to get there and hit this very, very hard, and we're just finding a lot more gold. These are the two sections that we released shortly, as you can see, sort of over 40 metres on two separate sections. Both of those are outside the resource, which is why we think we can see that resource growing considerably. It's a very, very high grade. And what we're seeing there typically is a broad zone of mineralisation of over sort of 40 to 50 metre wide mineralisation running between 1 to 2 grams. And then when you hit that the ultramafic, which is again quite similar to what King of the Hills is, you have that very high grade zone. So that's what we're sort of chasing down plunge on the eastern side of that granodiorite. Juno, it's located 400 metres south of that pit, so again, that's another new lode. It's open up and down plunge. Some amazing hits there, sort of 13 metres at 5 grams in completely almost an untested area. You'll see on that lower cross section there, you can see some of the historical Troy drilling that was really just going down and testing to the top of fresh rock, because that's what they were looking for, was the oxide material. We're drilling a little bit deeper and we're finding a lot more gold. So here's the key one in a long section. That dashed line outlines our lower resource mineral boundary. So all of the high grade that we've recently discovered is all below that dashed line, so all currently outside the resource. The other thing that we've certainly been excited about with Juno is that it appears to be an extension of that mineralisation below the Lord Nelson pit. So that's really amazing that we're hoping that with the resource work that we're doing at the moment, that pit can get pushed down a lot deeper, and a lot of that will fall into a much larger open pit. But obviously we'll wait till the independent resource experts have worked through that as well. Juno won't come into that resource, but we're certainly looking to follow that up in the not too distant future. Very quickly, just on Lord Henry, at the southern end of the granodiorite, that still seems to be open to the north. We've got a number of holes that's still pending on that, so you'll see some more resources coming out from there. But again, exciting, a number of multiple stacked lodes, over 50 metre wide, intercepts at over 2 grams per tonne, very, very shallow. Lord Henry was only mined down to 40 metres, so that's certainly something that we can see growing further. And then just stepping back, and we've been talking about the 3 kilometre long granodiorite intrusion, and you'll see there from the mag that it actually, the rocks there fold right the way back round and lead back into a much longer 20 kilometre corridor, which hosts two our other deposits, Vanguard and Indomitable. So Vanguard's 50,000 ounces at the moment, Indomitable 70,000 ounces. Both of those deposits are unmined. Indomitable's got a weathered zone down to over 190 metres. That's quite impressive to see sort of a weathering down to that zone. Vanguard, it's 50,000 ounces, as I mentioned. We've been doing quite a bit of drilling there, over 7,000 metres. 7,000 metres of RC drilling. That's all still pending. So we're looking forward to getting those results back. There's also a diamond hole from Vanguard, which that's got visible gold in it. There's over 28 metres of very strong alteration. It looks like laminated quartz. And so that's certainly something for us, which, I mean, laminated quartz is important because that's what the old timers were chasing. That typically hosts quite high-grade gold. But you can see there from those results at both Vanguard and Indomitable, it's quite hard to ignore those deposits and really just focus on the Lords. But for us, the challenge is, as I mentioned before, when you've got so many prospects, how you prioritise those, and that's what we've been doing, which is why we've been focusing on that southeast corner. So where to from here? As I mentioned, we've got a lot of results, over 10 diamond holes, over 100 RC holes from the property still pending. You'll have a resource, we'll see a new resource upgrade either later on in the year or the first quarter of next year. And we're still waiting for a lot of those results to come through to plan our next program, and we're planning on hitting the program or the Sandstone Belt pretty hard next year as well. So lots of drilling, and we're just finding, the more that we're drilling in this gold field, we're just finding a lot more gold. So it's pretty exciting. I mean, my team have been out there. It's the happiest they've been in quite a long time. I mean, the geos always love to be out there drilling holes rather than sort of reading supplementary target statements. So it's good to be out there drilling, and I'm certainly, as you can see, I'm pretty excited about what the next 12 months at least has to offer. So just in summary, we're well funded, $3 million at the moment. We've got a number of assays still pending. That resource currently sits at 331,000 ounces. You will see that growing fairly significantly. 900 square kilometre ground package, so dominant position, lots of targets to prioritise through, and it really still hasn't been tested below 100 metres depth, and that's where we see the potential. Oh, that's it. So thank you, and yeah, I'll be outside, so if you have any questions, please come and see me.